Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Talking BizTech. I'm your host, Saqif, and today we are going to explore spiritual business. But before we do that, I just want to thank the content studio, All Innovative Production, for making this happen. Um, all Innovative Production produces audio and video content, and they're currently working on their website. But if you want to know more about All Innovative Production, my website's URL will be in the description below, and make sure to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help. Now back to the topic. What is spiritual business? What is a spiritual business? It is a business that is aligned with your soul. Um, spiritual In spiritual business, entrepreneurs provide spiritual, holistic, metaphysical, or occult goods or services. Spiritual entrepreneurs have higher standards of conduct. Um, Spiritual business includes teaching, healing, counseling, being creative, and being of service. Spiritual entrepreneurs are mostly artistic. They're creatives. They're creative minded, and they're also teachers, healers, counselors, and service oriented individuals. The example of a spiritual business can be an individual who makes jewelry out of crystal and sells it online. Spiritual entrepreneurs can also be a martial art instructor, or spiritual consultant, or even a life coach. Other examples also includes someone who sells I believe it's esoteric books, herbalist who makes tea out of herbals, musicians, artists, vegan chefs, photographs, and meditation experts, and even more. So, my guest for today's episode is Robyn Peltier. She is a spiritual entrepreneur and a podcaster. So, let me just go ahead and bring her on Talking BizTech. Hello, Robyn. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this chat today.
Oh, you're very welcome. And Robyn, before we dive into the spiritual business, I just want to get to know you a little better. I do this with all my guests. I just want. So my first question is, can you tell me about yourself and your educational background?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Sorry.
I feel like the healers that I've met along this journey, especially in, I'd say, like spiritual business,
Yeah.
um, always have a very colorful history. And it's oftentimes the healers that have really been through it, so
Yeah.
to say, that teaches you a deeper level of empathy for our fellow humans, our brothers and our sisters. And that kind of compels us to look for healing in more ways than just the physical. And throughout my life, there was just a lot of trials and tribulations. And it definitely felt like an uphill battle for most of my life. And through that process of, trial and error, making really horrendous decisions, being through all kinds of things, I started really finding myself and finding a desire to live another way, to seek answers beyond what I was told, existed. Really, I mean, we're taught from a young age, all you know is what you can, read from a book or what you can memorize. And you're right when the teacher says you are correct, but I think the biggest flex in this life is like that feeling within you and being able to trust that above all else. I'm very like intuitive minded, and it is a balancing act to bring in, the common sense grounded
Mhm.
spirituality, as well as the more metaphysical side that, I like to marry those two realms together. But sorry, this is such a loaded question. But throughout my life, it was just like a searching for answers within myself, not understanding why I didn't feel like I fitted, or why I didn't fit in, or why, anytime I would try to do another job, it just felt like there was like a higher power kind of like guiding me into, I do psychic readings and things like that. So it was a loving nudge and a process of finding myself here. But it was all about healing and peeling back the layers and finding that, for some people, it's not as simple as going to the doctor and filling a prescription. Like, I deal with past life. You can have like energetic patterns that follow over, or connecting people to deceased loved ones. Psychic readings, it's more about finding like what's going on in the present moment and helping them from another perspective make better decisions to create the future they want.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
there we go. And
Yeah.
that can be really interesting for people when they know that I don't know anything. So I tell them not to tell me anything. And then I kind of look at alternate perspectives for them to come to clarity within themselves. Um, yeah. Sorry, I was all over the place there. I have a little bit of like nervousness. I'm not used to being interviewed. I'm used to interviewing.
other other guests. I understand. Yes, but I try to. I'm actually using my podcast to interview other podcasters too. So that's one of the benefit. I mean, I do tend. I mean, my request to you, don't feel nervous. I mean, uh, it's a. I mean, there's so many things I can learn from a podcaster, and there's so many podcasters around the world right now, and um, and I believe there's so much value to be learned here. And if it's a loaded question, don't stress about it. It's just you can always break it up, and we can you like uh, yeah, like don't feel stressed that you it has to be the exactly the answer. Like, just feel free to speak your mind. Actually, Robin, you do so many things, like as a spiritual entrepreneur, and you're also a podcaster. I just want to know, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I have sessions with clients, and it's a lot of clarity readings is what I would call it. Yeah, it's just taking clients and working through whatever comes up in the reading, having a lot of inspiration come in. I like to move with the creative hits. It's kind of like, somebody who's writing a book, or somebody who's painting a picture. The inspiration really guides you and leads you. And I'm sure a lot of your listeners have heard of channeling, although that's not something I do. I believe, when we are speaking on a podcast, or, journaling out our feelings, that can be a form of just like the letting the creative inspiration flow through. So I like to move with that, and that's how a lot of my content like comes into this world. It's where my ideas come from for different offerings. I don't really have like a set structured schedule for myself, because that for me feels really confining. I just can't. I'm a bit like the mad scientist that's got like all the ideas on the wall, and every day I'm like, "Oh, I have a new idea," or I'm like, "Oh, I'm done with that one." And I like to play around. I like to keep it expansive, and I like to keep, the my business available for me to express whatever I need to.
Wow, that's impressive. That you have so much ideas, and it actually shows that how creative you are. Like you like to play around with those ideas, and then you do have is that the vision board that you have on your wall? Is that you note it down on a piece of paper and then you stick it? Is that correct?
Behind me?
Um, Not behind you, like you mentioned that you like to know, like you've got different set of ideas every day, and then you like to put them on the wall, right? Is that like how do you do that?
Oh, okay. I was more speaking like metaphorically, where it's like,
Oh,
sorry, like
oh,
it's interesting because whenever I'm speaking, I'm always like seeing what I'm explaining, but it doesn't always make a lot of sense to
actually,
everybody else. But I more so mean, it's like I'm constantly creating, I'm constantly like, all right, I have this idea, I put it out there, and then it's just this like creative play in the business. But when it comes to like an actual vision board, although a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs use those things,
yes.
with my communication, I'll call it with the higher power, I just ask to be of service and to use my voice and influence well. And people will say to me, like, well, what are your goals? I'm like, well, I'm going to go where I'm led to go. And by letting go of the control of needing to like micromanage my future, like I had been used to doing, I more so tried to clear space to be like, what maybe I don't know what it is I need. And the most magic really appeared in my life by giving up the control. And it really made room for incredible collaborations, um, and in opportunities that I didn't know, were available to me. And my vision just keeps expanding and
Wow.
so that to me has been really exciting and a lot less stressful. I think goal setting is amazing. I have a little process I like to walk people through to like connect them with their intuition and like an expansive vision. It's if you could do, be, have, give, or create anything in this world, if money, time, people, opinions, whatever, if nothing was restricting you, what would that actually look like? And people often sell themselves pretty short or don't even realize that they have a longing in their soul, or there may be something they're passionate about that they've sidelined to stay comfortable in their life. If all you know is just four tiny walls, you're not really going to think of what's outside of that. But if you give yourself a reason to explore, I call it like the quantum field of like possibility. um, you can find yourself really discovering a lot of who you are without even realizing that, you wanted those things. I was in bed a couple of years ago, disabled from a car accident, and that was the process I started using when I was told I would be disabled and on disability for the rest of my life. And now, like, I'm a single mom right now, and I have a place in a pretty expensive city, and I made my own little office in my house, and I'm working for myself, and I'm able to walk and lift weights. And it was like my dream built me. I connected with something that was, burning within me. And it's a scary process to write down, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I have this idea that I'm going to write this book, and I have this feeling it could be a bestseller. And you have that opportunity to write down these possibilities, and you get to come face to face with your limiting beliefs in that process, having a space to be like, well, why couldn't I write a book? You have to kind of go through all of these like voices in your head, or these feelings that feel like you're like not good enough to do it, or all the reasons why you shouldn't, by creating a list of why you should and why you can. And that right there is like one of the most empowering things. And not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, but there are things in
I
our
agree.
soul that we come into this life wanting to explore. And if we just stick to the process of 1 + 1 = 2, well, you can talk yourself out of everything, and you could give yourself every reason not to. So I want to go into like that 1%, that tiny little voice in your head that, says, oh, can you imagine how cool it would be if this happened? And I'm like, okay, that little voice right there is your own potential speaking to you. It's just whether or not you want to hear it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I believe that the 1%, that voice motivates you every day, uh, and to get you involved in the spiritual business. Um, I wanted to know, what is your purpose in life, and what motivates I also want to know, like, what other things motivates you to be a spiritual entrepreneur?
My biggest why is to become the teacher that I wish I would have had when I was going through my own type of awakening,
Hmm.
when I was, experiencing, I'll call it clairvoyance. So that's when
Yeah.
well, being a clairvoyant is when, like, the way I'll interpret images for people is like, yeah, imagery. It's like, it seems like your imagination,
Yeah.
but that's how you receive psychic information is through images, or you could feel them, or you could hear them. Some people will taste. Um, it's different for everybody, but throughout my life, I've just been having very strange experiences, like having dreams and then they happen, or just knowing things that you really shouldn't know. That I'm like, I must be crazy. I must be making this up. And searching for like who I was, and like what was my purpose in this world. Because before the car accident, I was just going to sell makeup and, try to work for like Lancome or get into the perfume industry. So having my career path taken from me and stumbling through the adventure of finding out what was going on. And I have to say, like, the precognitive dreams just got so uncanny. I didn't know what to do with it anymore. And I was on a hunt for teachers to help me figure out what was what. And I read a ton of books in that time. And
Sorry.
in the spiritual communities, and I want to say spiritual with
Yeah.
like quotations, because true spirituality has nothing to do with psychic abilities. It really is about following your heart. That to me is like, that's a spiritual gangster right there. Not somebody that just self appoints them. I'm a
Mhm.
priestess, right? Or I'm a goddess. Why, right? It's not about that for me. It's about the heart path. But I guess we'll use spirituality for the sake of understanding. My why is really to guide people that are going through experiences they can't understand, to provide them with the discernment they need to navigate in the spiritual realm. Say it's like, there's like, I call it the fourth dimension, and that's where a lot of spirits hang out. So to have the verbiage to know the different types and how to interact with them and how to do it safely is a big passion of mine, as well as using my abilities to help people gain clarity and connect them to how they interpret information, whether that is even just like, we all have like, oh, I have a hunch about this thing, or oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or I've got this bad feeling about someone. Like, we kind of forget that those are our superpowers. And I think the antidote to the craziness that's going on in the world right now on many, many layers is connecting people with their gut, their heart, and their mind, like syncing up this innate process that we interpret, the world with, and being able to trust what we're feeling and to know what it is.
Mhm.
Because how many times do people disregard red flags or their gut feelings? They're like, oh, but the thing is like, the more you get in tune with that and develop a relationship with yourself, the stronger those feelings get, and you can lead yourself really quickly in life to the places that are really nourishing for you. And that process right there is what really excites me, and that's my why, because it's connected to so much more than just spiritual fluff. It has to do with like your business decisions, how you invest financially, the relationships you have with people, boundaries. Everything is all intertwined with that. Your physical health, you become very sensitive and you develop a relationship with the world around you, but it's dictated from within, not from an outside source telling you how to live your life, which is what most people are used to doing, whether
Yes,
it be from the
I agree.
TV or doctors or whatever. And you know, doctors are like, I love them. I think it's amazing we have the medical system that we do. But by following my intuition, if I would have just listened to the doctors after the car accident, I'd probably be in a wheelchair by now. I was on more medication than you could even imagine. I was getting like 12 injections up the back of my neck every 2 weeks, and they're long nerve
Oh,
block injections.
oh God.
And it was just going downhill. And I had to listen to my gut.
Yeah.
and start looking for answers that I wasn't going to get from the guy in the white coat, right? It was about, do I trust myself enough to recover without all of this? Can I do it? How do I build that emotional resilience and um, work through physical pain and all of that stuff? It came from a gut feeling. But if I was, disconnected from that, I would still be on all of that medication, very disabled. I would not be in this place and I wouldn't have a business. So that's kind of like my why is really expansive. There's so many whys. I want to help women, who've been in abusive, situations that are trying to restart their life. I had a reading the other day and I was able to see that, this woman needed help and there was like abuse going on and she didn't tell me, but it's like immediately I was able to pinpoint what was happening. And I'm like, okay, let's work through this. It's going to be okay. But sometimes there's a lot of like superstition and like allure around psychic abilities, and I don't claim to be like any more special than anyone else. I think we all come into this world with like innate abilities, whether it be you're a singer or an artist or whatever your thing is. Um, but being able to use it in a way that I can mirror back to someone that they're not crazy, or without them telling me anything, I can get a pretty good grasp of what's going on and what they need to know. I'm not a psychic that you can go to and tell you what you want to know. If somebody's like, tell me if my boyfriend's cheating, I'm not going to be the psychic for you.
Are you
How
able? Are you
oh,
able to tell them? Oh, okay. So
there's
yeah,
ethics involved, and
yeah,
you mentioned with like spiritual businesses that
yeah,
it's kind of a more conscious model, and that's what I stick to. Like, it's about like what is empowering to someone, and how to, like, if I have these gifts, how do I really want to use them?
yeah,
I think there's nothing more disempowering than saying, oh, this is what your future is going to be and you're just a slave to that, you don't have power. That's not true, and
yeah,
it's kind of a waste of their money. Um, and it's not helpful for somebody to come to you and ask, oh, is my boyfriend cheating? And I want to be like, why do you feel so insecure that you need me to tell you that?
yeah,
Like, let's work on that. And it's like, let's talk about why these feelings are arising with you. um do you trust the gut feelings you're having? You know what I mean? Like, there's a more empowering way to go about it than just handing over all your power to like a fortune teller, because when you get into that dynamic with people, like, they can become addicted to readings. They can't figure out information for themselves. Like,
oh yes,
I think it's really important that when I have somebody come to me, I want them to leave knowing they don't have to come back.
yeah,
Like, I'm going to give them what they need, and I'm going to employ them with tools so that they can figure it out for themselves next time and have confidence in their ability to lead themselves through life. And that's really important to me. And I feel like it actually makes me stand out as a psychic, because in the field I'm in, yeah, you have to be very discerning. There are some really amazing intuitives out there, so I will say that, but always trust how you feel about it.
mhm.
And yeah, check out like what their ethics are, and what leads them in business.
And I agree with your explanation of the gut feeling, because I feel like it's very important. Um, like it's just like you. I have a disability as well. I have a head injury. I suffered from a car accident, and like and a lot of people do have like a permanent or temporary disability, but then like doctors can only give you suggestions, right? But then it's all up to you how you want to go about it, like how because like it's all up to you if you want to go through the recovery process. And in that case, you did actually, like, you trusted like you trusted yourself and your gut feeling, and that's why you recovered fast from it. And And actually, I do want to touch base with you about how powerful spirituality is a weapon to entrepreneurs. And matter of fact, I just want to share this with my viewers. Basically, how to leverage spirituality and take your business to the next level. So entrepreneurs must have a value, and then they need to use that value to help people. They have to know how to sell something in order to generate revenue, and they have to learn how to be abundant by receiving and accepting. I believe that meditation is a very powerful thing. Uh, Calmness. It's very important for entrepreneurs to remain calm when dealing with stress. Um, Entrepreneurs should set bigger goals and trust God. And even if they're not religious, they should be logical. They should make a difference in people's lives, and they should always keep learning. So that and matter of fact, um, when it comes to contributing to a spiritual business, Robin, I just want to know. Like, my next question to you is, what is your contribution in spiritual business, and do you organize any sort of virtual events for it, um, or any workshops?
Yeah, did you mean like in teaching spiritual business?
Yeah, actually, when it comes to contributing to spiritual business, sorry, let me just quickly explain to you. So, yes, are you a teacher? Are you a healer? Are you a counselor? Are you a life coach? How would I define Robin Peltier?
Yeah. So I guess that I would be considered a psychic medium,
Right.
or, depending on like what is comfortable for people. I also like can identify with more of like the seer as well. And what I like to do is psychic readings, past life readings. I've teamed up with my really good friend Louise Burden, so we kind of call ourselves the psychic duo,
Wow.
and we do like live readings on Zoom. So if if we lived closer, she lives in the UK and I live here. So if we live
Oh,
closer, we would pair up and do like gallery readings
yeah.
live. But we're doing them on Zoom right now, so that's pretty exciting. We like to compare our abilities and get. We find we always get the same information, and it's like really evidential and precise and accurate. It's been mind blowing working with Louise.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we teamed up, and so we have that. I think the next one is March 6th. That's a Sunday. And all the details are. Um, do you add that to the show notes?
Actually, I don't. But I can add it right. If you, like I can just type it right away and then just show it to the. So the only show notes I have this spirit wisdom.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, you
Is
can find me
is it
on my
good?
Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
at Robyn
yeah.
ROBYN dot
Matter of fact,
PELTIER. But
actually, sorry, Robin. Sorry for cutting you off. So after this podcast, you can share your Instagram profile with me, and then I can put it in the description box underneath this video. Um,
perfect. Thank
yeah.
you.
Sorry. Go on. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. Yeah, so Louise and I are doing that. So
Mhm.
it's been interesting because a lot of people question like what it is we do. So I'm
Mhm.
like, well, you can question it or you can just come see what we do. You come see for yourself. We're not afraid of going live to do it. So I think that's been interesting. And then we're also hosting a I call it Real Deal Magic, and it's an intuitive development class. And it's a
Oh,
drop-in class where we do practice, and yeah, it's nothing like too creepy or anything like that. Like a lot of people get into like the occult knowledge and they get kind of spooked, but it's very gentle, it's very loving, and I think it's kind of funny, but I'm a psychic, but I always pray to God and I think it's really important. And it's just a really safe container to learn how you interpret information, because everybody does in a different way. It's not so much about doing it just so you can do readings for people. It's more about how to tune into, your feelings, as we said, for all these different areas in your life. Like I'll sit down and open up like I would for a reading, but I do it for my podcast episode. So it's like I can like see what I'm going to say in the podcast as I'm going, and I never plan it, because it's all just like spoken words, in alignment with, I say, like the creator's will. And it's the same for if I'm like brainstorming for courses and things like that, things I want to offer. It's
Mhm.
really wild when like you get like, I call it like a downloader, you get this idea that just like pops in, kind of
Yeah.
like it's very similar to like I believe what Einstein would have been doing, because
Oh,
he's tuning into the infinite realm of creativity. And that's kind of how I view this
yeah.
as well. I feel like it's like connecting our brain to the cosmic internet. And it's
Yes,
like most
I
in
agree.
its simplistic terms. A lot of people get really excited by like, oh, you're a psychic, but I'm like, it's more about like utilizing our brain and realizing how, capable it is of perceiving information. And when you begin to notice what you're able to receive and you put your energy and focus on that, you're able to perceive more. It's kind of like you broaden your perception, and then your consciousness is available to see it. It's hard to explain it. I'm quite a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So we're
Yeah.
teaching a class, and that's going to be, I think it's every Saturday at 11 o'clock a.m. EST. And it's only $22 US to join that. And that's on Zoom as well. So you have two teachers, two psychics. We have tested and verified each other. So it's really exciting to do that together. And yeah, we're starting up a YouTube channel. Actually, after this, we're going to go record some videos for a new YouTube
Wow.
channel. And I also have my Spirit Wisdom podcast. So that's,
I'm sorry, your screen got frozen.
yeah, it keeps dropping. I'm sorry. Yeah, but my podcast is a little, my soul offering to this world. I like to speak about just, yeah, my thoughts and my feelings and the processes I'm going through. And I have guests on, and it's really a place for people to share what, the moments in life where they got to meet their warrior spirit.
Yeah.
Spirit wisdom to me is not about the books we've read, the courses we've taken, the certifications we have. It's not about that. It's more about our street smarts, or the things that we've learned in this life through
Yeah.
our experience and through our knowing, the things that you couldn't change my mind about what I do, because it's something I know through and through. I'm very familiar with it. That's my spirit wisdom. How to, move through adversity is my spirit wisdom. It's just this beautiful little place where we all just have permission to be human, because I feel like we live
Oh,
in a world
yeah.
where everybody is, we're wearing masks, and it's
Yeah.
about like how we have to show up in business, and it's like we have to be very professional, and we have to keep our outrageous thoughts and opinions to ourselves, because we don't want to get canceled, we don't want to offend anybody, we don't want to say the wrong thing. I'm also like, part of my message is connecting us back to our spirit wisdom, trusting ourselves. And I also want people to like feel safe enough to be able to speak up when something isn't right, to be able to use your voice in a way that is in alignment with your heart and your truth, and to not be afraid of what people think of you, because I spent a life being a slave to that. I'd created a prison of perceptions of other people and how I should be. But when I broke out of that, I found freedom within. And then it started rippling out into all areas of my life. And, it's going to be a story I tell of how, like, how I went from rags to riches.
Mhm.
And, you can think of that in terms of like material items, but I feel like um, that was my understanding of who I was. I saw myself as like being in rags, but the more I go on this journey, the more I love myself, the more confident I am, the more interactions I get with people, and life-changing messages and reviews. And it's like, damn, I think I'm really getting something right. Like that's the most exciting part about this. And that's why like entrepreneurship will really test you.
Yeah.
It will
I
test
agree.
your faith. It'll test your courage in yourself, your ability to, you know, it's like there's intuition and then there's intuition and action, and they're two totally different things. So when you can, get a creative thought and actually, create from it, that is like incredible. And a lot of people will sit on ideas and never do it.
Yeah.
But the most incredible things happen in our life when we take chances. And I like to think of it as like throwing a piece of spaghetti at the wall, and you just got to keep going to see what
Yeah.
one's going to stick. And, in moments where you feel like it isn't working, that's when your faith really comes into play. Because the way I see it, like energetically, and a lot of people talk about manifesting, and I don't really get into that a whole lot, but I do believe when you're up leveling your life and you're trying to kick like old habits, it's almost just like the universe brings in dangling carrots to be like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to kick this behavior? Because I'm going to bring in some ex-boyfriends. If you claim you want to be a single independent woman, I'm going to bring some ex-boyfriends to kind of test you to see how much you want this. It's really uncanny. It really is. And it's about character development and
Yeah.
holding out for the full yeses. And
Mhm.
when things aren't what you want, it's like being cognizant of that and being intentional about what we consume
Mhm.
on all levels.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
agree. No, it's um it's a little complicated, but but thank you so much for sharing your podcast, the Spirit Wisdom. How do you promote your podcast?
Yeah,
Is it only on YouTube?
I promote it. It's on like Anchor, so it's on all the streaming platforms, as well as I have a podcast page on Instagram. I promote it from my regular Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, kind of all the places.
Oh, that's amazing. And Robin, we're near the end of talking BizTech. I do have one last question for you. If someone were to start a spiritual business, let's say a young spiritual entrepreneur, what advice do you have for them?
If they wanted to start in business or spiritual business,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I would ask them what their why is. Like, why do you want this? And if it's just to get famous, it's like checking the ethics of like what you're doing. Is if you're going to step into a space where people are looking for, communication with a higher power, like that's spirituality is really about the self-love journey.
hmm,
Um, and it's about like doing good by ourselves, doing good for others. That to me is the most important thing. Is like, what is your why? Why do you want to do this? What inside of you, ignites passion? Is it in alignment with that? Because if we're not in love with the idea, it's going to be really hard to create something of it. And there's lots of other different businesses that are like very spiritual. So I just want to like make note of like, I'm picky about the way we use spiritual, because it's really about people that are following their heart, and that's people all over this world. And some people who have no idea of any spiritual lingo are the most spiritually badass people there are out there.
yeah,
And that's a definition I want to like lock in. But yeah, I think for anybody, it's like, what is your why? What is your why? That really solidifies it, because I do think our intentions are the loudest piece of our business.
yeah. Actually, thank you so much for that advice. And yes, I agree with you. People need to know their why. It's also very tough to figure out the why, in especially right now because of the insane price, insane inflation, and then the crazy booming market, because the crazy housing market. Um, I saw a video today in the morning about how millennials and generations that are scared about their future in Canada because of the insane prices, right? Because of the inflation. And so yeah, it's very important to know your why before you start anything. And thank you again, Robyn, for that advice, for your valuable information. And yeah, I would love to have you on Talking BizTech again, because spiritual business is a broad topic, and I actually want to know more about it. So thank you so much, Robyn, and have a wonderful day. I'm just gonna turn off your screen, but stay there. I'll get back to you. So yeah, thank you so much, Robyn.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm just gonna. So, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to Talking BizTech. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more podcasts like this. And I want to thank All Innovative Production for making this happen. So, thank you again and have a wonderful day. Bye for now.